Hi, and thanks for purchasing the project. In this video, I just want to go over how you can customize the ForceGrab system so that it suits your needs. Now, there are two main actors you're looking at when trying to customize these, and one of them is the actual pawn, and rather it's not really the pawn, but the ForceGrab component that it's on your motion controller, and the other one is the base pickup object. Now let's start from the pawn. As you can see on this pawn, I've exposed three variables. And if you go inside of the pawn, you see that I'm just passing these variables to the motion controller, in this case left, and the normal motion controller, which is the right hand. If you go in the motion controller, which is the base class for also the left one, you see that there is a ForceGrab component in there. And all I'm doing with those variables from the pawn that are set through the spawn actor node, it's actually passing them to the ForceGrab component. That's just a nice way of having them exposed here so that you can customize them and try quickly things as you try to fine-tune the system. Those variables though are exposed also in here, and as you can see that they're just available here with the tooltips in the same way they are right here. So you have the ForceGrab max distance, which is the maximum distance at which you will be able to interact with an object, and that's literally the line trace that goes from the hand to the object. Then you have a hand flick velocity, and that's the velocity at which you have to flick your hand so that the object gets force pulled. And then finally you have the mid-air grab distance, and this is the distance used to calculate if you're close enough to the object while it's flying towards you so that you can pick it up. So that's everything that you can customize on the component itself through the pawn. But if you look at the object, then you will see that there is way more variables that you can customize in here. So you have obviously the mesh itself of the object, you have the materials that go on that mesh, and then you have a ForceGrab collision size, and this is the collision around the object that we use to line trace. Now this is not probably necessary with big objects, but it's kind of needed for smaller objects such as cans, small cubes like that. And it's a collision that you can customize the size of by using the ForceGrab collision size. So if you set these to 0 completely, it tries to make it as big as the object itself. Now this is offset down there, but as you can see, it's basically as big as the actual bottle. And as you make it bigger, it basically increases the size. And as I was saying, this is just a nice way of being far away and still being able to point at the object and interact with it. Now if we go ahead, we have the show ForceGrab collision, and this is just for the editor time. It's for you to see it in the editor so that you can see how big it is and what it looks like. You can get rid of this if you want, so that you don't see it in the editor. That's what I've done. But then when you start editing this value, you probably want to switch on so to see where that is. And you then have the hand connection ray size start, and that's the ray that gets drawn between the bottle and the hand, and that's the start size, and it's literally the size of this spline mesh component at its start. And the next variable is the end. So it makes kind of a nice cone shaped like ray down there, down the ray size end. There is the ray length, and that's basically the length of the ray going from the bottle, in this case, to the hand. Now a value of 1 is the full length, so it goes from the object to the hand itself. A value 2, it's basically half of it, so it's going to draw it until half of the distance between the two. And the ray updates in real time, obviously. Then finally there is the snap to hand on grab section, and that has to do with basically snapping the object to the hand. If you enable it, then you'll have to make sure that you'll have to provide the snap socket name. That's the socket on your skeleton to which the object is going to snap to. And if I show you the right skeleton, for example, you see that there is this handle bottle, handle cube, and handle can. And that's basically the name. Now you see that there is just one. That's because you can name the socket for the left and right hand skeleton with the same name. I don't think you need to have two different names for them. but then you have one right and one left grab animation, and the animation is literally just a pose. So as you can see, it's got probably just 10 frames there or something like that, and it's just basically posing the hand in the right pose. If we get rid of this bottle so that we can actually visualize it a little bit better, go back to the animation, you can see in there it's just posing for us, so that once we actually grab it, it gets into this pose. And as I was saying, you have the right and left poses, and I'll explain in another video how you can get these set up and running, and also how it works with the VR template. And finally, you have the object gravity, which is not really the gravity of the object while simulating physics, so don't confuse it for that. It's just the gravity used to calculate the object flying towards you in an arc motion. Finally, there is the object pull arc, and that's the arc that gets calculated for the object to fly towards you. So a value of 0 basically means the arc is going to be as high as possible. So it's going to have a nice high angle, and then a value of 1 means that the object comes flying directly towards you. Now, be careful playing around with these two values. If you mess around too much with the values, you get the object either flying towards you too fast, or just not ending up in your hand. So these two values seem to work fine for me. You can play around a little bit with them, obviously. They don't have to be exactly this, but be aware if you go to extremes, such as making the gravity something like 0.1, so it's very light. 0 is basically disabled, and these 0, the object may go just flying up in the air to where basically you can grab it. And that's everything you need to know for customizing the behavior of the grab system. Thanks for watching. Bye.